The sanctuary was decorated with flowers. Everyone was sitting in their seats. The groom and groomsmen stood to the right of the altar, and the bridesmaids stood to the left. All is ready, but not everyone was ready. "Where is he, Mom? Why isn't Dad here to marry off his only daughter?" "I don't know, Teresa. Wait, I just received a text message from him." The hopeful look with which she opened the message soon faded. "What is he saying, Mom?" "Inevitable delay. Hold your wedding without me." "What? Is that all he said? No explanation?" "No. Darling, we must continue with the wedding. Nicholas and I spent too much money to let it go to waste." "But who will lead me to the altar? It's ridiculous to go alone." "Wait, what about Gordon? You don't want people to find out that he is your birth father. Well, if you don't mind everyone knowing that he's been your lover since he knocked you up, now is not the time to argue. I'll ask your Uncle Frank to do it." Damn, it looks like we have no choice." Nora entered the sanctuary and led Frank back to the locker room. "Frank, you'll have to walk Teresa down the aisle. Nick won't be able to come." "What? Why me?" "Why not? We don't have time to argue. Go, go." Nora was seated in front, and soon after the crowd stood as the bride and her Uncle Frank walked down the middle aisle of the church. Frank was a little at a loss with the question, "Who is marrying this woman off?" Finally, he stammered and said, "Her mother and my son-in-law." The service continued, and everyone was wondering where Nick was. When we got to the ring exchange ceremony, a man walked down the aisle with several large manila folders under his arm. Silence reigned in the room. Standing in front of Nora, he handed her one of the folders. "Nora Dexter, you have filed for divorce on the grounds of adultery. It is alleged that you had a long-term affair." She was handed one of the envelopes. Nora stood in shock. The man walked back down the aisle and stopped it halfway. He turned to the right and said, "Gordon Black, you are facing the following charges: alienation of affection, 18 years of alimony, and a bill for the expenses of your daughter's wedding." After handing him the folders, the man left. Gordon's wife slapped Gordon and left. At that moment, the wedding died. People walked away, making snide remarks along the way. After a while, only Nora and Gordon remained. Gordon said, "I guess now we don't have to worry about Nick finding out. Do you think your wife will divorce you?" "Only if the sun rises tomorrow morning." "Will you need to stay somewhere for the night?" "I probably don't want to go home now." "Well, then you can come with me. Everyone knows about us anyway. I've got some good bourbon to get drunk on." They arrived at Nora and Nick's house and found it surrounded by fire trucks. Gordon approached the crew chief. "Definitely arson. Excessive use of catalyst, probably gasoline." Gordon returned to Nora. "Nick burned everything. Let's go to the hotel." "We'll go to a place where people attending the wedding wouldn't go." "Good idea." Nora went to rent a room for herself and Gordon. Her credit card was declined. Gordon gave them his and everything worked out. Nora tried to call Nick about the card, but when she called, she was told, "This number is no longer in service." She sighed and said, "Scorched earth." For good reason, Gordon and Nora were not motivated to have sex. The only time in 20 years they did not have sex was as soon as they were outside the hotel room door. "So, Nora, what do we do?" "I need to go to the computers in the hotel business center and see if Nick has taken all our money." She did so, and he took it. "Gordon, I'm broke until I can get my half of the money back. Check if you still have money." He checked, and he really did have money. "I probably need to withdraw a large amount before my wife takes it." Gordon managed to withdraw $10,000 before his account was frozen. "Gordon, I think we'll both need lawyers. Now I want to get drunk." "Agree." Gordon and Nora got drunk and passed out on the bed, fully clothed. They came downstairs for breakfast in rumpled clothes. "Nora, do you have somewhere to stay?" "I'm going to call Candace and find out where I stand. I might have to stay somewhere else, too. I just hope she doesn't say she never wants to see me again." "Good luck. I'll ask my daughter if I can stay with her. Now I need to go to Walmart and buy some clothes and toiletries." How are you going to pay for them? I forgot. Gordon, can I borrow some money from you? Certainly. Gordon drove her to the church where her car was parked. She wasn't there. Nick had a spare key and could have just driven away with it. Now, Gordon had to take her to Walmart and wait while she went shopping. He told Nora that Candace had given him permission to return home, at least long enough to pack some things. Nora called her daughter. Teresa, this is your mother. Mom, how could he? I thought Dad loved me. He may have ruined my marriage. Johnny doesn't want to talk to me now. What should I do? Don't know. I know I need to stop somewhere. Can I stay with you for a while? Why don't you come home? Or your stubborn father kicked you out? No, he incinerated me. What? Yes, he burned down our house. He'll probably be arrested for arson. Did Dad burn down our house? He'd have to be incredibly evil to do something like that. That's putting it mildly. I think you can stay with me, but if Johnny calls and wants to come back, you'll leave. Agreed. I'll come now. Oh, can't you pick me up? The fire inspector pressed charges against Nick. Nick pleaded not guilty and appeared in court. In the interim, he remained in jail rather than being released on bail. Nora and her lawyer used this time to try to find out where the money he took was located. She figured he must have turned it into cash and hidden it in some place he refused to reveal. Nora waited until the end of the trial to file for divorce, on the advice of her lawyer. He said a conviction would promote good divorce proceedings. The prosecutor brought in an arson expert to testify that the fire was an act of arson. Nick's lawyer didn't ask any questions. The prosecutor then called Nora to testify about what happened that could have motivated Nick to burn down their house. She said they fought over wedding things, and then he didn't show up to walk his daughter down the aisle. This time, Nick's lawyer asked questions. Miss Dexter, did you know that perjury is a crime? I protest. Affects the credibility of the witness. Rejected, but watch yourself. Thank you, Your Honor. So, Mrs. Dexter, why did you lie about your daughter being Mr. Dexter's daughter? She is his daughter. His name is written on the birth certificate. He raised her with me all his life. Is her biological father's name on the birth certificate? Silence. No. A murmur was heard from the crowd. Whose name should appear on the birth certificate as the father? Gordon Black. How long have you and Mr. Black been cuckolding your husband? Our entire marriage. The judge interrupted. Mr. Conlon, are you aware that you are establishing a motive for your client? Yes, Your Honor. My client prefers to make his wife's infidelity public rather than avoid the consequences of his actions. If so, I pronounce Mr. Dexter guilty of arson. After a short break, I will listen to sentencing recommendations. Upon returning from the break, the prosecutor stated that the facts were not in dispute. Mr. Dexter deliberately set fire to the home he shared with his wife and, until recently, his daughter. Almost all of Mrs. Dexter's belongings and some of Ms. Dexter's belongings were destroyed. Since insurance does not cover arson, the only satisfaction she can get is to send her husband away for as long as the law allows. She will sue him for divorce and compensation for everything she has lost. Nick's lawyer spoke up. My client burned down his house? Yes, but the key word is that it was his home. The deed to the house was not in his wife's name. All of her and her daughter's belongings are in plastic bags in a storage unit, the key to which I am giving her lawyer right now. Your Honor, we ask you to consider what would be the normal reaction of any man who learned that his wife had sex with another man before and throughout their 22-year marriage. As a result of this illicit sex, a girl was born, whom his wife and then his daughter deliberately passed off as his own. Their divorce and related litigation will resolve the issue of equitable division of property, but since there is no significant loss of property on Mrs. Dexter's part, we believe Mr. Dexter should receive the minimum sentence. As he left, Nick said to Nora, "See you in divorce court." Nick looked good when he arrived at the divorce hearing. He played sports, and this helped him lose extra pounds and tone his muscles. Nora looked terrible. Gordon agreed with his wife that they would stay together. It turned out that Gordon's wife was also unfaithful. They agreed to forgive each other one last time, but from now on, Candace had to control all the money. He moved back home. Nora suffered financially and socially. Divorce was her chance to bounce back. The money that Nick owed her would give her the opportunity to recover, perhaps in another city. Your Honor, Mrs. Dexter is demanding half of all the assets that were in their accounts, based on a list of all assets from 6 months ago. She demands half of what Mr. Dexter earned from the sale of the land on which their house stood. In addition, she demands alimony of $2,000 a month for 5 years. Mr. Stevens, my client was cheated on by his wife and her lover for more than 20 years. My client was led to believe that the child his wife gave birth to was his. He loved this child and was an exceptionally good father for over 18 years. It was only when he overheard a conversation between his wife and daughter the day before the wedding that he learned that his wife had been cuckolding him throughout his marriage. We have a recording available for playback. I protest. Neither my client nor her daughter gave permission for the recording. This is not a criminal court. Family court has more lenient rules. I want to listen to the recording. Yes, Your Honor. Entry. Mom, do you know what would be cool for a wedding? Honey, we've already exceeded the budget. It won't cost anything. Okay, what would be cool? If both my fathers had walked me down the aisle, Gordon and Nick. She giggled. Are you completely crazy? I've been careful for 20 years to make sure Nick never finds out. Even poor, gullible, ignorant Nick might figure it out if you do. No, it's too big a risk. If the risk of having sex with Gordon for over 20 years is worth it, why not just leave Dad for Gordon? Because your dad is a wonderful husband and father. He is the everyday man I want to come home to. Gordon is a holiday man who comes from time to give me sex. It's simple. I like Nick for marriage and Gordon for sex. This doesn't mean your dad is bad in bed, but Gordon is great. I've always wanted them both. I don't even know which one I would choose if I had to. I would like to tell my friends that my real father is Gordon. They all think Nick is a nerd. The recording stopped. The judge ruled that the wife would receive an equal division of the property, but reduced the amount of alimony to $1,000 a month, and only for 3 years. Nick agreed. He had just received $250,000 from Gordon to settle all 3 lawsuits against him. He took this money to buy an apartment near his work. A few months later, Nick came to Teresa, whom he had considered his daughter all his life. Dad? Sorry, Teresa. Gordon isn't here. Dad, you know that you are the only real father I ever had. Gordon was just Mommy's sex toy. How long have you known that I am not your father? Not before the trial, like everyone else. Your mom didn't tell you about the divorce hearing? Yes, she received half of the property and some alimony. Did she tell you about the tape? What film? The one I wrote down a week before the wedding between you and your mother, where you proposed to Gordon and me to walk you down the aisle. Oh shit, whatever I said, I didn't mean it. I was just joking with my mom. Gordon means nothing to me. Well, you just admitted that you lied to me. You've known about Gordon for a long time, and you never told me. Mom would kill me if I told you. You can't blame me for this. No, I can. Fortunately, chronologically, you are already an adult. From now on, I am not responsible for any of your actions, whether you are a father or not. You'll still pay for college for me, won't you? You promised. I'm sorry. You lied to me, and I lied to you. Dad, don't hang up, Dad. They met in a coffee shop. Do you mind if I sit next to you, Nick? Nope. Are you here by chance or on purpose? Specially. I wanted to talk to you after we've both calmed down. So, Nora, do you think I've calmed down? Hope so. I wanted to give myself a chance to say I was sorry. Truly sorry. Sex with Gordon was good, but not worth our marriage. We got away with it for so long that I took you for granted. What I miss most about our marriage is the friendship. I miss being able to talk to you, especially when we're cozy on the couch. You were my best friend besides being my husband. I appreciated both. Nick, is there any chance we can just be friends again? You still mean a lot to me. I am surprised. No requests for money? No requests to forgive our daughter? Not anything. Sorry to disappoint you, but no. It's hard to be with someone for over 20 years and just abruptly break up with them. Despite our divorce, I never stopped caring about you. If you want, we can meet at Starbucks or some other neutral place if you're willing to meet me. Maybe. The bitterness is not as strong as when I first found out. It may surprise you, but I also miss those times when we just talked. You are a smart woman with good ideas. I think we could at least try. We can always stop if we want. Tuesday evening suits me. Besides talking, I will never get tired of reminding you of how you considered me worthless in bed. Nick smiled. You know very well that I loved you, and I liked our sex life. Let's not talk about this anymore. When we meet, this should be off the list of topics. Tuesdays work for me too. For several months, the Tuesday meetings went well. Despite how their marriage ended, there were many shared fond memories, even if they were just fond memories. Nick was the only one who brought up the idea that they would go to her house to talk away from prying ears. Nora agreed because she wanted to snuggle and talk and drink something other than expensive coffee. They both began to feel like the good old days. Nora began to feel safe when she broached the subject that would make him invite her to live with him again. Nick, do you like these weekly conversations and memories? Yes, very. I'm glad you suggested doing this. You know what else would be fun? What? Nora felt it was time to take a risk. There's something else I'm missing. When we were married, after talking, we would most often go upstairs, take off all our clothes and enjoy each other. Can we do this tonight? Please. Nick thought about the proposal for a moment, and then smiled and said, Nora, go upstairs and prepare the bed and yourself. I'll prepare drinks for us and get up soon. Yes, dear. She ran up the stairs. Nora was almost delighted. Her plan to slowly lure Nick in worked. Once she convinces him that he can satisfy her sexually, they will get back together. She decided not to wear a nightgown, no matter how sexy it looked. She took off her clothes and lay down on the bed, inviting him to enjoy her body. She waited, and she waited. Something was wrong. She put on her robe and went downstairs. Nick, where are you, honey? There was no answer. Nora saw something on the kitchen table. This was the note. Inevitable delay. You don't have to wait for me. You can go to hell. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.